today we're going to be ranking every single EX card from the black and white era. I'm just going to be doing the regular arts today, no alternate arts, no full arts, but I do plan on doing a video just talking about the full art EXs from black and white because I love them as well. Just going to be talking mainly about how much I like these cards. I did play back in the 2012 era when these came out all the way until 2014 when X and Y came out and continued the EXs but in a different style. Played a lot back then. When the EXs came out, it was actually a really big deal because EXs were gone for about like a 4-year period throughout the entire Diamond and Pearl, Heart Gold, Silver era, and even the early Black and White era was also just big basic full art Pokemon of the legendaries, whereas we would eventually get these EXs in Next Destinies, the 4th set of Black and White, 3rd in Japan, which brought back even bigger basics. And yes, it did create kind of a toxic metagame. Not a fun time to play, frankly, but there is some cool memories with these cards. I think it'd get a little bit better once we got X and Y out and the first turn rules got fixed, but then X and Y also brought its own problems with. So X and Y didn't leave its baggage at the door before making cards like Double Dragon Energy, Trainer's Mail, Shaman EX, and the like. If you enjoy these tier list videos, do be sure to subscribe to the channel. I upload tier list videos every single Tuesday. And if you like retro tabletop content, such as seeing maybe some of the EXs that are featured here, you may see them in some of my retro tabletop content videos, which I upload every single Friday, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned to Whimsicast to check those videos out. Anyway, let's get into the tier list. I have decided to organize them by set, so as you can see, Next Destinies all the way down to Legendary Treasures, just covering the black and white ones. Again, no dupes, no full arts, no alt arts, anything like that. One thing you'll notice about the black and white era EX is something I liked as a kid actually quite a bit, is that they focus exclusively on the legendary Pokemon, which are basics, because it kind of weirded me out until Legendary Treasures anyway. We'll get down there. It kind of weirded me out when X and Y came out because suddenly all of the EXs, it was like Charizard EX and it was a basic, and I was like, wait, that's not right. And we talk about the big EXs in the context of, oh, these little EXs that we had in EX era and now we have in Scarlet Violet. The little EXs evolve, but actually in Black and White, I thought this was intentional. Like, I thought the EXs would evolve, but that they were just all basics for a reason. And as you can see, they're all but 2 of these are just basic legendary Pokemon, so it actually makes sense for them being basic. On that, you also get to see a lot of legendary Pokemon, which is cool. People like legendary Pokemon. I'm not a big fan of Shaman though, but it is a cool card. Shaman EX coming out in Next Destinies didn't really pop off at all. If you ask my friend Blake, who pulled that from his box, he would tell you that this is one of his least favorite. Pulled that as his full art, because out of the full arts in Next Destinies, it's essentially, like, as a kid, it's definitely the lamest one. It did see some play later in life in Rising Genesect, seeing play as a both in the deck and to counter against the deck. Saw some play in some rainbow boxes, but it's really not a very good card. Very low HP as Shaman EX tends to have, as we see, a few years later when it get another EX and even another EX beyond that. But it's Revenge Blast attack that does more for each prize card you're behind in it. It's a typical Shaman attack. Synthesis is bad. I don't hate the card though. I'm not ranking this based on like how good they were in the meta. Obviously Mewtwo is S, Darkrai is S, and Excadrill is like D in that case, but like, I'm ranking these out how much I like them, and I don't hate the card. It's just kind of in the middle, B tier. Then we have Reshiram EX. Reshiram EX was one I quite liked as a kid. Obviously, growing up now, I see that it's completely and utterly unplayable, but don't tell that to 12-year-old me. It is in tech Glinting Claw, 50 plus 30 if you flip heads. I mean, that's pretty bad for 3 energy, considering Mewtwo does 120 for 3 energy, and it has the Brave Fire. One thing I really like a lot about a lot of these black and white era EXs is that a lot of them were CG done by Shizuru, who I believe to be the best CG artist in Pokemon. I'm usually not a fan of CG, however, Shizuru does an incredible job with CG. They did all of the ones from Next Destinies. I believe all of the ones from Dark Explorers as well. I don't think they had a hand in the, I think these were all SK Yoshinobu for the Dragon's Exalted ones, and I think from beyond there it's kind of like, it gets a little bit less so, but they also did the black and white Kyurem right here, which are 2 of the best looking EXs. Like, all of the best looking EXs are done by Shizuru, that's what I'm saying. They're an incredible CG artist, despite the fact I don't like CG. And this Reshiram looks absolutely incredible for a CG card. Brave Fire is another terrible attack, 4 energy, 150. We did have Embor back then, so it's like possible to actually power this up pretty easily with Embor. You can play a stage 2 in your deck and just, accelerate a bunch of fire energy to it, hit for 150. But honestly, it's kind of worse than the single prize Reshiram, which for 3 energy does 120. Because it's a single prizer, it's not giving up 2 prizes, it's not possibly damaging itself with the attack, and it synchronizes better. So Reshiram, really not the all-star, but I have good memories with this card. We're going to put it in A tier. Then we have Kyurem, another really nice looking one, and one with actually some cool attacks. I like this one's attacks better than the other 2 dragons. So it's got Frozen Wings for its first attack, does 60, and you discard special energy, and then Hail Blizzard does 120, and you can't attack, or you can't use Hail Blizzard, sorry, next turn. I like attacks that specify that you can't use this specific attack because there's a lot more creative input there, especially when they give them multiple attacks compared to ones like this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn, which usually leads to a lot less creative cards. This card was another one that, 11-year-old me was just absolutely obsessed with, putting it in all of his decks. Back then, my decks were made up of, exclusively EX cards putting together with Prism Energy, and, 20 copies of Energy, because, I was very skilled at Pokemon back then, of course. I have always been good at Pokemon. Never bad. Nope, never bad. This one's pretty cool, though. Gonna put it in A tier as well. I like this one a little bit more than Reshiram from, a playability standpoint, but I do like Reshiram's art a little bit more. Then we have Zekrom EX. Again, it has that awful Glinting Claw attack, 50 plus 30 if you flip heads, and it has Strong Volt, which is actually not terrible. It does 150, and you discard 2 energy. Discarding 2 energy, actually not bad, because you could play this with Electric to get the energy back. It didn't really see much play, though, because why play Zekrom, which doesn't hit weakness and doesn't one-hit KO things, when you could play Mewtwo with Electric, which does one-hit KO things and does hit weakness against other Mewtwo. But again, it's a really nice artwork. I have some good memories with it. So I'm over-ranking it, but I think this one is still an A tier. These are just absolutely stunning cards. I'd really like to own these again someday. I don't own them right now, I don't think. I think I own Reshiram. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've looked in my EX binder. I have a lot of full art EXs, but I just don't have a lot of the regulars anymore. Then we have the King of 2012, Mewtwo EX. Undoubtedly one of the most negative impact cards to ever come out into the game. One of the most powerful cards ever released. A meta-centralizing force that really just forever changed the Pokemon TCG. Really, it cannot be understated how powerful Mewtwo was when it came out. That's why we have the thing called the Mewtwo Wars, where your Mewtwo is weak to my Mewtwo, and my Mewtwo is weak to your next Mewtwo. So it's essentially just a combo of chaining Mewtwo's, and whoever gets the first knockout is likely going to win, unless you can end your opponent into oblivion. Regardless, I am very biased for Mewtwo because I, in fact, pulled Mewtwo EX on release when it was about $70. Of course, I didn't sell it. I was young and dumb, so I took it to my friend's house. I fell into a snowbank when we were messing around, and my Mewtwo got water damage. So that's unfortunate. I still sold it for like 15 bucks, though. That's the crazy thing. It was water damage, and I still sold it for a lot of money. So the card was super playable, really, really cool looking card. Again, Shizuru really does the best with the limited angle that the EX cards gave. Sadly, I don't think they work for Pokemon anymore. A lot of the EX cards from Scarlet Violet looking a little bland. Magnezone EX looks really good, and the Noivern EX we just saw looks really good, but like a lot of the other ones, like Koraidon, Miraidon, they're not using that window to its best extent. You really got to fill the window with the Pokemon, make it look intimidating, and there's basically no one better than that Shizuru. As for like artwork, me liking this card, I have so much. I get it, the card made the game terrible, but I absolutely love it. S tier. People are gonna look at this list and be like, competitive players are gonna look at this and be like, bro, why has he got these 3 awful cards in A tier? And people who think I'm gonna like basing it on like are gonna be like, why is Mewtwo in S tier? This is confusing. The last of the next Destinies EX cards is Regigigas Un. My man, I love Regigigas, one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Its Giga Power attack does 60 plus 20, and you can do 20 to yourself. Actually, a very cool attack. It really feels like it should have been 2 energy for the attack dodge, so you could use double colorless, but I digress. And then 50 plus 10 for each damage counter on it. Actually, like, not an awful attack, but it is very hard to power up. And one of those things about all of these EXs from Next Destinies, besides Shaman being very hard to power up, is that they got absolutely mauled by Mewtwo, because Mewtwo's X-Ball does 20 for each energy on both active Pokemon. So when you power up, let's just say I put 2 double colorless energy on Regigigas, Mewtwo now gets a free extra 80 damage to do with its attack. If it stacks, let's just say, a double colorless on itself, now it's doing 120 for just a single double colorless energy, whereas I'm doing 50 for 2. So you can kind of see the issue on why Mewtwo is very powerful. Regardless, I really like Regigigas. I didn't pull it as a kid. When I went into Next Destinies, I really wanted Regigigas. I still don't own the regular EX. I believe it's the only one I've never owned out of these. I would really like to own it someday, because I just love Regigigas. I own the full art. The full art's kind of a little bit uggo, to be honest, but, you know, regardless. This EX is really cool, S tier. I really like rage attackers that aren't the 3 dragons. To be honest, those 3 dragons suck, but this guy's cool. And then we have Entei. And Entei has Fire Fang. I believe it does 30 and Burn. I could do 50 and Burn, but 30 and Burn seems more right. And then, especially because Raikou does 30. And then we have Grand Flame, 90, Accelerate 2 Fire from your Scrapal to one of your Pokemon, I believe it says. This card was one I never used. It was playable. Like, most of these EXs, to be fair, were playable. There was not that many that weren't. And I will talk about them when they weren't. So the Entei, really, like, cool attack, and it was used in some, like, Aurora box decks. It didn't really hit the best weakness, because fire wasn't, like, a good weakness to hit then, but you could play Prism Energy. I call it Aurora box, that's modern day terms. Sorry, it's Prism Energy, which works as a Rainbow Energy on any basic. Obviously, these are all basic, so you just use that, and then you use, like, something like a Kling Clang, which would allow you to move the Prism Energies around, because it counts as metal. And you just play this to hit for a weakness, and possibly even Accelerate Energy if you played Fire Energy in the list, but why would you? This is one of the more boring EXs. It's not a bad art. I don't like Entei as a Pokemon, but it's not a bad Entei art. I just kind of nothing it. C tier. Then we have Kyogre EX, the only EX card in which I pulled 2 of the full art. Back when I was 12, this was like the, we'll call it the main of my friend Brandon, who played this in his terrible deck, because we all built terrible decks. It has the, I believe, Smash Turn is the first attack, does either 20 or 30 and switches it to the bench, and Dual Splash does 50 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Don't apply weakness and resistance, obviously, for bench Pokemon. The Dual Splash is a cool attack. It's another one of those cards included in the counter, like, Prism Energy box. Sorry, I keep on referencing different special energies. Just because being able to hit the bench is obviously very good, especially if you could save a Pokemon catcher for a crucial moment in the game. Especially post-rotation, once they lost Junk Arm after 2012 Worlds, saving your Pokemon catchers was really key to winning games. And so if you could get away with not using them and get a bench KO with this, very good. Obviously, Kyogre could also take knockouts on evolving Pokemon. A lot of evolving Pokemon were not very big in this format. Take, like, Electric and Tynamo, right? Tynamos have 30 or 40 HP, not very good HP-wise. And, you know, we look at something like Clink has 60 HP, right? You 2-hit KO that, you hit for 50, and if they don't evolve it next turn, you get it then. And you can even damage EXs for other attacks, such as the Groudon's attack, which also worked in these Aurora boxes and was mainly the main attacker. I kind of nothing this card again too, but it's a little bit better than Entei, because it's got a neat attack. I think we saw this attack reprinted on the recent Kyogre V, funny enough, so B tier, kind of interesting card. Then we have Raikou EX. First attack does 30, flip a coin if adds paralysis, typical lightning attack. Can I just say, shout out to Raikou's artwork. Absolutely top class Shizuru EX artwork. I'm not even like a huge Raikou fan, but this card makes me a Raikou fan. And then second attack, Volt Bolt for lightning colorless. You discard all lightning and it snipes 100. This card was one of my absolute favorite cards back in the day on PTCGO. I wasn't building good decks on PTCGO, but I kind of understood that if you put Raikou and you put Electric in the same deck, it's kind of pretty good. Although I only had 2 Raikou EX, so wasn't really profiting that much in that regard. But I would use my Raikou, I'd accelerate energy to it with electric, and snipe 100. I loved snipe damage. I hated Mr. Mime when that came out because it completely invalidated the deck. But just one of my favorite EXs to play back in the day, S tier. I actually don't own any of these nowadays, which is really unfortunate. Dark Explorers is the most expensive black and white set. God knows why, I don't know, but the Gardevoir exploded in price, the Archeops because of GLC exploded in price, so just keeps on getting more expensive. And the EXs kind of came as collateral to that. Then we have Groudon, the main attacker of these Prism Energy box decks because it hit a very valuable weakness, being fighting. And what is weak to fighting? Well, look at his best friend next to him. Darkrai is weak to fighting. Hitting fighting is very important. I believe its first attack is like Trample, does 20 and 20 your opponent's bench, I believe, and then its attack, something, I don't remember the name of it, 80 plus 40, I believe, if your opponent has any damage counters on them. So obviously, like I said with Kyogre before, if you hit Darkrai for like 50, oh, now my attack is activated, so I'm just gonna take the knockout. Or you could just, you know, use like a plus power or something. Hit for 90 times 2 for 180 weakness. Groudon was good for that reason. However, these counterback strategies the Prism Energy boxes were always kind of like just kind of weak. Never really like that good from my like time back in the day on the ladder. They just kind of hit everything for weakness and just play a bunch of big basics. And if you love decks like that, I'm sure you'd love it. But having to get a stage 2 into play to move the energy around, kind of awkward. We'd see them get better, honestly, in 2014 when we got the Aromatisse, which moves fairy energy around, but it's a stage 1, so you can move the Prism energies around. With the stage 1, it makes it a lot easier. Regardless, kind of a cool card. We'll put it in B tier. It's a nice artwork, honestly. Then we have Darkrai. As a kid, this was like the rawest EX of all time. Like, super cool looking card. Obviously, Darkrai's a very cool Pokemon. And Shizuru, once again, making the best use of this art space. It has the Dark Aura ability, which gives free retreat to all of your Pokemon with Dark Energy attached. Still played and expanded to this very day. Every single Dark deck from the time it released until now in Expanded is going to be playing this Darkrai because getting free retreat is so good. I should clarify, every single multi-prize Dark deck. You're not going to want to like put it into a single prize like Weavile, Honchkrow deck or something like that. Getting free retreat is very, very good. We've seen this ability reprinted multiple times on like Zeraora GX and Manaphy EX, which were kind of its spiritual successors. Manaphy saw a little bit less success. Zeraora, obviously, very, very powerful card, Pikarom and the like. And in Expanded, even to this day, Zeraora is one of the most powerful cards in the entire format, being played in the Double Dragon Energy decks. So Darkrai is very good. Its attack is also very good. 3 energy, 90 damage, 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Doesn't seem that overwhelming, but it honestly just does perfect math. It 2-hit KOs everything in the format. It got Dark Patch, it got Dark Claw, so now it's doing 110 damage and 30 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So now it's more than 2-hit KOing things. Now you can even reach. You can set up knockouts with Night Spear's 30 damage and then gust around with Pokemon Catcher to guarantee those knockouts are taking big damage. This card was insane. I played it a lot back in the League. I didn't play it, I played against it rather. I wasn't rich, I couldn't own Darkrai. I didn't pull Darkrai either. From my booster box of Dark Explorers, I pulled Kyogre Full Art, and then I opened up more packs and I pulled another Kyogre Full Art. That was my luck with this set. I did, however, pull the Tornadus, which was very cool. So, Darkrai, Consensus, very, very good card. Very, very good artwork. Still good in Expanded Day. I use it a lot in my decks. S tier. That's like unquestionable. Honestly, it's not even a bad attacker in Expanded nowadays. I've used it in strategies where my opponent's trying to use like Pokédolls and Robo-Subs, and you can take 2-for-1 knockouts with it, so kind of sick in that way. Yummy drink. Okay. On to the next one. We have Tornadus EX. This guy is sick. Doesn't seem like much at first, but trust me, it is good. Blow Through does 30 plus 30 if there's a stadium in play, and Power Blast does 100 for 3 energy. Flip a coin of tails. I believe you discard an energy, or you can't use Power Blast. There's one of the two. I believe it's discard an energy. And why is this so good? It's because it's colorless energy, meaning we can put it into electric decks, we can put it into the Celebi decks that were popular at the time. CMT is Celebi, Mewtwo, and the Tornadus or Terrakion, whichever one you choose. Tornadus is a cool-ass card. I played it all the time back in the day because double colorless energy, instantly hitting good numbers, Really, really good card. Really, really good artwork where he's like reaching towards the camera. It took me like 10 years to see that he was reaching towards the camera, and to be honest, I thought he was doing like some kind of weird like ninjutsu thing with his hands, because it kind of looked like his hands were like sprawling, but he is just like, it's just because his hand is like so close to the camera, like he is coming to get your ass and beat you up and take your lunch money. And this is such a cool card. Definitely S tier as well. I'm gonna have a lot of bias for these just because I played back in the day and I was 12, so the big EXs were cool. Nowadays, I'd probably come back to this format and not enjoy it as much, to be honest. Then we had Ho-Oh EX. Ho-Oh EX is a really cool card. Its rebirth ability says, once during your turn, if this Pokemon's in your discard pile, you may flip a coin. If heads, you can put this Pokemon onto your bench and attach 3 energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. This card is so sick. It didn't see a lot of play back in the day. It was the main of my friend Blake's deck. My friend Blake absolutely loved his Ho-Oh EX and his Ho-Oh EX full art that he played in the deck. I traded him the Ho-Oh EX full art. I still regret that. And its Rainbow Brand attack does 20 plus 20 for each basic energy on Ho-Oh, so it can do 80 if you have the 3 different types. And you basically get this into the discard pile through discard fodder. Later we would get Battle Compressor, but by that time the card was kind of not that good. Because only 160 HP was pretty weak, and it's only doing like 80 damage. And when it really, here's the thing, it really took off later in the expanded format because of Ninja Boy being printed. Ninja Boy says you swap one of your Pokemon in play with a Pokemon in your deck, a basic Pokemon in play with a basic Pokemon in your deck, rather, and keep all attached cards to that Pokemon. So I can get a Ho-Oh into play with something like Battle Compressor, which discards 3 cards from my deck, just use that and get a bunch of Ho-Ohs down. I forgot, the ability says you have to flip a coin. It's the worst thing about it. You flip a coin, if heads, you get the effect. And I've had games where I just flip 12 coins in a row and get all tails, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm fucked. So regardless, use Battle Compressor, get down all your Ho-Ohs, get down your Ninja Boy, Versus Seeker for Ninja Boy, get a Ho-Oh into play, Ninja Boy for your Ho-Oh into like something broken. For a time it was being used with Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno, for instance, the tag team, which took 3 energy for its attack, but killed, took 3 different energy, but it killed 3 Shamans at once and would just automatically win the game, which is kind of sick. You know, you can power up literally anything with Ho-Oh. If you can dream it, you can do it. In Expanded, I was also using this in Kecleon decks. Kecleon hits whatever weakness, or gets whatever type, the energy attached to it, and then it hits the weakness on that type. You times the weakness by 4 with something like Vileplume or the Azelf UC Mesprit combo from Unified Minds, and then you get Ho-Oh into play, get the energy, Ninja Boy into the Kecleon, hit for weakness. I was also using it with Alcremie, even more recently. Alcremie from Brilliant Stars says it does 10 plus 40 for each of basic type of energy you have in play. So you get all of the basic energy into play, and you're hitting for 370 damage for just 2 energy. And Ho-Oh is the only reason that deck even works. It's just so much fun. There's so many cool combos you can do with this deck. It is truly the EX of all time, frankly. S tier. What a cool card. Ho-Oh Weak, never. Then we have Mew EX. Mew EX has the incredible versatile ability. It allows you to use the attacks of all Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, as long as you have the energy attached to Mew. As cool as that sounds, it was primarily used for 2 things around when it was around in Standard. It was used for X-Ball to KO Mewtwo, and it was used to copy a Selgor. Selgor was a stage 1 that did 50 damage for just double colorless energy, and paralyzed, poison to shuffle itself into the deck. So if you can do that with Mew, you only have to find your double colorless energy in your Mew again, instead of having to find the whole Selgor line and evolve it back into play. You can just keep your Selgor on the bench, and then you promote something to the active like Flygon or Trevenant to like put up some kind of lock, punish your opponent with some kind of damage spread like Flygon would. You know, you just do something, maybe put up a wall like Sigilif from Plasma Freeze to block EXs if they do get out of the combo. That was the Trevgor deck, the Flygon, and a Selgor deck. A Selgor was a menace, but yeah, Mew primarily did that, and it hit weakness on Mewtwo, so a little bit of things there. It also has an attack Replace for 1 Psychic. You can move your energy around your field as much as you like. Not very good, but it is a thing. As for like the card itself, it's got some really cool artwork. I like the Radiant Collection version better. I do own like multiple copies of the Radiant Collection one and the full art one. Sadly, the Radiant Collection ones are like $30 nowadays. They were like $1 when they came out because they were just like super common. One of the cheapest like bling cards of all time, frankly. and it's still a cool card. You don't see a lot of it being used nowadays. The most recently I used it was a couple years ago in a Cosmic Eclipse Walrein stall deck and expanded, where you'd Archie's a Walrein in play. Its attack does 60, and your opponent got trainer locked. But you couldn't use that attack twice in a row, so then you'd use Mew to copy another like locking attack, and just do that every other turn until your opponent essentially doesn't play the game. Yeah, Mew's definitely fallen off over time, but it is still a very cool card. It definitely gave a lot to the game, A tier. Then we have Terrakion. Does 50 damage to Rock Tumble, not affected by resistance, and 90 with Pump Up Smash, doing 90 and accelerating 2 energy from your hand to your bench Pokemon anyway. Like, this card, for like 12-year-olds, this card is like cocaine, dude. This thing accelerates energy from the hand. Broken. I don't have to play Ultra Ball and discard it. Broken. Regardless, I didn't play the card a lot back in the day. Hitting 90 is actually pretty big. It replaced Groudon as like the primary attacker in like these Prism Energy boxes for hitting Darkrai. But obviously by this point, Darkrai was not as dominant. It was still very good. It would go on in 2013 to once again win the World Championships. But, you know, Terrakion and Prism boxes just weren't as in demand. But it still was a good card for what it was, just hitting weakness against Darkrai, one of the better Pokemon in the game. And obviously, from this set on, we'd also see Rayquaza and later Keldeo being the best cards in the game. So, yeah, Terrakion's pretty cool. We're going to put it in, we'll go A tier, yeah. I like it more than Groudon. Then we have Registeel. We saw Regigigas EX, and now we see Registeel EX. We would later get a Regirock EX in the XY era. Sadly, we would never get a Regice EX. Really a shame. Registeel EX has the triple laser, which does 30 to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. Seems like a really good attack, but it's not actually that good. It is actually the same attack printed on Iron Treads EX, which just came out very recently. Although obviously it's even worse on Iron Treads because 160 or 30 on 3 Pokemon, not good. 160 is the second attack on that. Then we have Protect Charge, it's 80 and it takes less damage by 20. During your opponent's next turn. This card seems absolutely terrible. Obviously doing 80 is not very good, doing 30 to 3 Pokemon is not that good, especially once we get Mr. Mime later on. But this card served one very key purpose, and that was in the Kling Clang decks. Kling Clang was a card that was a stage 2, but once you get into play, all of your metal Pokemon became immune to the effects of EX attacks, which is absolutely incredible. Like, I don't think I need to tell you how good that is, and then you'd also get the Kling Clang in play that moves your energy around. So you just have a metal box of attackers that are all immune to EXs. Registeel was really good there, as Cobalion was obviously very good. That was the main attacker in those decks, both Cobalions, rather. But it was nice having a Pokemon first that could clean up on the bench, and having one as a just really bulky attacker. So if your opponent did have something that could hit you, let's just say like an Empoleon, that could hit you, you would attack with Protect Charge to try to like remove the amount of damage you take, potentially live 2 hits, and then max potion it and put the energy back and start on over again. Because you can't one-hit KO with anything in the deck you're not one-hit KOing Empoleon, so you might as well just live hits with Protect Charge. Really a cool card in that regard. But other than that, it didn't do too much. I absolutely love the full art of this card, absolutely love this art, so gonna put it in A tier. Then we have Rayquaza EX. This was a big bad deck back in the day. Rayquaza with Eels, later Rayquaza with Emboar, was the talk of the town. First attack, Celestial Roar. You discard the top 3 cards of your deck, accelerate any energy there to Rayquaza. Not very good. You'd use that attack and discard 3 Rayquaza EXs, and you'd start malding and crying and bitching and whining. Not a very fun experience. Then we have, I believe, Dragon Break 60 times. You discard either all lightning or all fire, and then do 60 for the amount of energy you discarded. I'm surprised I remember these attacks' names and what they do, considering I haven't read these attacks in like 10 years. Regardless, this thing one-hit KOs everything. You accelerate energy with electric to it, accelerate 3 lightnings, come up to the active attach fire, and then do 180 damage. Boom. Everything. Literally everything is 180 or less. The biggest EXs here are like 180. Just absolutely destroyed by Rayquaza. It was a powerhouse card. It was one I didn't have a lot of, though. I got a lot of these when the tin promos came out, but though by that point, my friend Blake was kind of maining the Rayquaza deck, and I wasn't, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. Just a little bit less fond memories with it, but it has a really, really nice full art, so we'll get to talk about that when we talk about the full arts next week, hopefully. Then we have Giratina EX with the Shred Attack 90, goes through all effects on the opponent's active. good for hitting through walls, bad otherwise. And Grass Psychic, double colorless, 130, discard the top card of your deck. As you can see, we're starting to get into the territory where there's dragons. Dragons Exalted was the first set with dragons the TCG, and then Dragon Ball after it obviously completely made it dragons, and items. Giratina was the worst of the two. When Rayquaza hit good numbers and one-hit KO'd things, Giratina was not one-hit KOing anything besides other dragons because they were weak to dragon at the time, which made a lot of sense. Now they're weak to fairy, now they're weak to nothing. That sucks. Yeah, being weak to nothing is one of the worst choices they win the game. So as for the dragons itself, yeah, this card, I pulled it, and I was excited to pull it because it's cool. But cool is all it's got, C tier. It's really, really bad card. One of the worst EXs, definitely. Then we have Celebi EX. If you know anything about me, I love Celebi. It is my favorite Pokemon. And this one is not bad. Its Time Recall ability allows you to copy the attacks of each of your Pokemon's pre-evolved forms. So if I have, let's just say, a Flygon from Boundaries Cross into play, I can copy the Trapinch's Smithereen Smash to discard energy from my opponent's active. Actually, something I did do back in the day, because it's kind of funny. Spreading damage and denying energy is kind of sick, and Flygon's main attack is really expensive and not worth it. And then it's got the attack Wind Whisk, does 60, and it switches to the bench. Not a good attack. Really low HP, so be careful. But Celebi EX is actually pretty good. And it was used before Shining Celebi came out in Shocklock decks, and essentially what those decks do is they evolve a Raichu that would paralyze your opponent in the expanded format. You do that, and then you'd lock your opponent's supporters, and then devolve the Raichu with Devolution Spray. And because of Celebi, you'd be able to copy the Lillipups attack from Stoutland. Stoutland locks supporters. Use Stoutland to copy Lillipups attack with Celebi to pick up the Devolution Spray again, so you could loop the combo next turn. It was a really strong thing. There's also lots of things you could do with Celebi in its time. I know in Legacy there was a deck with this, with Gothitelle. Gothitelle, when it was active, locked all of your opponent's item cards, which is really, really sick. But what it copied is a Gothorita, which for 1 psychic energy, you flip a coin. If heads, remove an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Actually, a really good attack. You put down Celebi, so you can copy that, and then you put down Victini next to the Celebi so that your Gothitelle could re-flip the attack if it failed. Victini from Noble Victories, not the Victini EX, we'll see in a minute. Really, really cool combo. As for the card itself, I absolutely love Celebi. It's no question S tier. Then we have Keldeo EX. The King of 2015. Well, it was very good in 2013, somewhat okay in 2014, and very, very good in 2015. Yeah, it kind of took a while to hit stride, right? So we got Rush In. Actually really good ability. Even when you're not like using Keldeo as an attacker, Rush In's a very good ability. Once during your turn, you may switch this Pokemon with your active Pokemon. So just bring Keldeo from the bench into the active spot. And what this was used for is breaking the lock of the Acelgor decks I was talking about before. With the Acelgor that paralyzes and poisons, if you bring Keldeo to the active with Rush In, you then break it and you can just retreat Keldeo into your attacker. One thing you have to do though, if you run Keldeo, you have to run 2 to break the combo, because then your opponent can bring up Keldeo and hit Keldeo with a Acelgor and then trap that. So if you don't have a second Keldeo, then you just get locked either way. So you only get out of it once. The thing about Keldeo, you'd be like, oh, well, like, why does it matter? Like, Acelgor's gonna hit me for, 50, 50, 50, and then I'm gonna be dead. Because of poison. That isn't actually true though, because the Acelgor decks had Dusknoir by this point, which would move the energy around, which also came out in Boundaries Cross, sorry. And Dusknoir just allowed you to move damage counters around your opponent's field as much as you like, so you just prevent their opponent from ever getting knocked out. You would keep the opponent's damage all over their field, but you would never actually take the knockout until the exact moment when you would win the game, because that means when your opponent would use an N on you, which shuffles each player's hand to their deck and draws for each of their prizes, that you wouldn't actually lose any cards off of the N. So you just wait, you keep a ton of damage on your opponent's field, and then all at once you'd use Dusknoir just to take 6 prizes, which was really, really cool. The attack Secret Sword is mainly the thing we're here for. 50 plus 20 for each water energy attached to Keldeo. In this set, we had Blastoise, which allows you to accelerate as much water energy as you like from your hand. which is a stage 2, which is really awkward, but obviously it was really good. Back in the day, Black and White stage 2 supports were actually still pretty good. It really took until like Verizon Genesect coming out, and especially Lysander coming out, where stage 2 support started to kind of fall off the map, so to speak, because it's a lot harder to keep a stage 2 in play when they're getting brought up and one-hit KO'd. Keldeo just has an infinite damage cap, essentially, with the Secret Sword attack, able to one-hit KO anything. Obviously, this come back in 2015 to be one of the most powerful cards in the entire game, with Secret Sword attack. I have actually used Secret Sword attack in non-water decks, though, just playing Keldeo to get out of, like, switching and stuff. I have actually used it before, which is kind of cool. I'm going to put it in B tier just because I don't love the card. It's not my favorite artwork, not my favorite card, but it's got a cool story to tell at the very least. Then we have Cresselia EX. This one is a little bit closer to heart for me. I did play a deck with Cresselia EX back in the day. Cresselia EX has the ability, I believe, Sparkling Particles. You heal 10 damage in between turns from Cresselia. So essentially, you can kind of create an invincible Cresselia just by attaching something like a Violite on it, tanking hits, and then healing. What's the problem here? This sounds pretty good. The problem is that, first of all, it has its attack sucks. It has 170 HP, pretty low, and its attack sucks. 1 Psychic with 3 colorless, so 4 energy for 90 damage, yikes. And during your next turn, this Pokemon has no weakness. This card actually saw a little bit of play. I didn't know this at the time. I only learned this from a couple of 2013 like national players a few years ago, but it was actually played as a Mewtwo counter because you could hit Mewtwo for weakness and then not be hit weakness for a turn. Same thing if you could hit Deoxys for weakness when that came out, and not be hit in return for weakness. Pretty good. The ability is mainly what I think is cool, and if I were to try to like revisit 2013, I'd probably try to make a Cresselia deck work again. It's not good, I guarantee it, but healing damage is cool. If you could get like Superiors in play, which also heal 10 damage from your Pokemon in between turns. If you could get like Reuniclus in play as well. I know it's asking a ton. It's mainly like a legacy combo, if anything. You get this in play, you get Reuniclus in play, and then you get the Superior in play. You can move the damage around and heal lots of damage from your Pokemon in between turns. It's a lot to ask, but this card has a lot of special memories to me. A tier. I actually pulled a full art Cresselia of this on my 13th birthday. It was when Plasma was new, so 13th birthday. My friend bought me a couple packs of Mahari's Cross, and I pulled Cresselia EX full art. I already had a regular Cresselia EX, so good memories. Cool card. Then we have the big bad Landorus EX. Oh my god, this card was so good. 180 HP fighting type Pokemon, Hammerhead, 30 and 31 of your opponent's bench Pokemon for a single energy. This is Jet Punch on Buzzwole, but this was when HP was even lower. Lands Judgment, fighting, colorless, 80 damage. If you discard all fighting, it does 70 more, so 150. If you hit 30 already on a Pokemon, that's taking a knockout on anything, because 30 plus 150 equals 180. This card was so good, and that cannot be understated. I was playing this a lot because I pulled 2 within like a week of the release of the set. I was cheering because this card is so sick. Though my appreciation of the card faded over time, mainly from a retrospective spot. I didn't play during the XY season because I took 2 years off from about Flashfire to Steam Siege, but during that time, Strong Energy and Fighting Stadium and Regirock EX, all these like really stupid fighting buffs came out. And it kind of made, like, during the XY and Sun Moon era until 2018 when the rotation happened after Worlds, there was kind of this, like, fighting expectation of, I'm going to add, like, 1 billion damage buffs to my Pokemon. Even, like, post-rotation, we still had Diancie. I'm just going to add damage mod, and hit, like, 120 for a single energy. And it just became really gatekeeping at that point. Not fun to play against with, like, Buzzwole and stuff. That's why I hated Buzzwole for years. Only like getting back to it now, playing it in the Sun and Moon's Lost Thunder format, do I enjoy it because it lost things like Strong Energy in the rotation, which made it a lot more fair to play against. Frankly, kind of a tier 3 deck, honestly, without it. Landorus, though, I have good memories with it, so I can't put it any lower than A tier. Then we have Black Kyurem EX. Thunderfang does 60, flip a coin if heads, paralysis, really bad. I think it's Dragon Fang, whatever. And then Freeze Shock does 150, you can't attack next turn. Also bad. This card was both bad and ugly, and it kind of got that Bugly vibe going to it. It's like one of the worst EXs. Bad attack cost 2. Lightning, water, colorless. You can't even like use Blastoise because you have to attach 2 lightnings to it. Bad. This one was a little bit better, White Kyurem EX. I did actually play this on PTCGO back in like 2013. Dragon Stream does 60, flip a coin if heads, accelerate in basic energy from neutral battle to White Kyurem. And then Iceburn does 150, fire, water, colorless, and then you discard 2 fire energy, I believe, from this Pokemon, and then your opponent's active Pokemon is burned. So essentially, you do 150, and if your opponent flips tails in the burn, you're getting 170 out of it, which is really good. Obviously, you can mod that to do 180, which is what I was doing back in the day. Essentially, just one-shot things and hope you don't run into opposing dragons like Rayquaza that are faster than you. So I have some good memories of the card. I'm going to put it in B tier, but it is a pretty bad card. Then we have Moltres EX. This card is awful. I did play it back in the day because I pulled it, and back then I was just building bad decks. For 2 energy, 30, flip a coin if heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active. Actually, not a bad attack. Actually, we're getting into the Plasma EX. I just realized Plasma Storm. It is the Plasma era now. All hell broke loose. And then the second attack, Power Flame, does 80 plus 40 if you have a Plasma energy attached for 4 energy. Absolutely god-awful attack. I have good memories of the card because I played it, but it's bad. C tier. Then we have Victini. This card was really, really good. Became the main of my friend Christian, which really upset me because I was playing Verizon Genesect a couple sets later, and he would constantly destroy me with this in Victory Piece. Victini, for 1 energy, accelerate 2 energy from your deck to your Pokemon in play. Actually, really, really good attack. Though Victini is frail, so putting up in the active a little bit scary. And its second attack does 50 plus 50 if your opponent's Pokemon's EX for 3 energy. What Victini had going for it was the Victory Piece tool, which said if it's attacked to Victini EX can use all of its attacks for free. Meaning you can just go against a Verizon Genesect, bring up Victini, and hit 100 times 2, 200, taking a knockout for literally free. Really cool counter to the deck. Obviously, 13-year-old me, back when playing in there around the time of this Verizon Genesect, did not think it was cool, but it's still a pretty cool card, B tier. Then we have Articuno EX, another bad bird. Blizzard, 60, 10 to your opponent's bench Pokemon. This one was the only one which got a full art, which weirded me out. Like Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos were all in the set, and this one got a full art. And then second attack, I believe, it does 80, and if you have a Plasma Energy attached, your opponent's paralyzed, so it's a little bit better in that way, but it's still bad. C tier, I like the art a little bit better than Moltres. And the worst of them is Zapdos, I believe, does 40 more if you have a Plasma Energy attached once again, and then does 20 and flip a coin if heads. You're immune next turn for this first attack. This one's the worst one. Then we have Cobalion. Oh boy, I love Cobalion. Cobalion was in this Kling Clang box I was talking about earlier, so it was immune to effects of EXs once I got, or immune to damage from EXs once I got the Kling Clang in play. First attack, Righteous Edge, 30 damage, discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So good. There was so much special energy flying around. There's Prism energy, double colorless energy everywhere. You would get so much value out of this. And Plasma energy, even at the time, was also very, very good for the Plasma decks. And second attack, Steel Bullet, does 100 damage and goes through all effects, so your opponent tries to put up something like Sigilif or Suicune to wall your Cobalion, you would shoot right through them with Steel Bullet. This card was amazing. I pulled it when I was younger. My stepdad took me to his Take Your Child to Work Day in, I'm not going to say his workplace because that would be doxing, but it was a place he used to work at, and he took me to a Walgreens on his lunch walk that I went with him, and I grabbed one pack and I pulled Cobalion, and I was in every single, like, I had a Cobalion in a deck until it was like I stopped playing in 2014 because Cobalion's so sick. S tier. So good. I know I'm being very, like, praiseworthy. This is my childhood right here when I was playing. Diamond and Pearl was my childhood when I was collecting. This was my childhood when I was playing. Then we have Black Kyurem EX. Slash for 3 energy to, I believe, 70. Terrible attack. However, the good attack, Black Ballista, one of the coolest named attacks in the entire game. Water, lightning, colorless, 200, discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. I don't think they intended this to be good, but it is good, because you use Blastoise to accelerate 3 waters, and then attach a lightning, and just do 200 damage, and then you use Superior Energy Retrieval the next turn to just get all those energy back. So, and retest them again with Blastoise. You just blow up. It's like a 3-turn game once you get this thing established. This card is super sick, really cool artwork by Shizuru, and really cool attacks. Gonna go for, I don't know if I love it as much as those guys. We'll put an S here, sure. Less cool artwork still is the White Kyurem EX by Shizuru. Slash, once again, 3 energy, 70. I believe it's 60 or 70, I don't remember. And then Dragon Buster, I believe it's called, does 100 and then plus 10 for each damage gun on it. Very unpayable attack and not worth it. By this point, these kind of attacks were not very good because one-hit KOs with Keldeo, Rayquaza, and Black Kyurem are starting to be the norm, whereas Regigigas was born into a 2-hit KO format besides the Mewtwo Wars, so not really worth it. Gonna put it in C tier. Then we have Lugia EX. This was a scary card to see. Its Overflow ability says that whenever you take a knockout with Lugia, you get to take one extra prize card, which is super scary. Good thing this only had one attack. Its attack for 4 colorless is 120. Seems bad, but again, remember the extra prizes. And you must discard a Plasma Energy attached to it in order to use the attack. So you get this going with things like later on Thundurus, but when it came out, Colress Machine, a double colorless energy to accelerate Plasma Energy to pay the attack, and the discard, so you need to discard a Plasma Energy in order for the attack to work. And you just take big knockouts with Lugia, hitting either single prizers for 2 prizes or taking a finishing KO on a 2 prizer for 3 prizes. So really kind of cool card. Not a great illustration to be honest, but it can be forgiven. We'll put it in B tier. This was a sick full art, absolutely god tier full art. We'll talk about that when we talk about the full arts. Then we have Heatran EX. First attack to 60, I believe plus 60 if your opponent has a special condition. And second attack, I don't even remember. This is the most forgettable EX because it was not good. His artwork is fine, but it's D tier. Then we have Thundurus with its Ride and Knuckle. Does 30, and you accelerate a energy from your battle to one of your benched Plasma Pokemon. Really, really good attack. The first along these lines of like 30 damage, accelerating energy. Obviously, we'd see later on Yveltal from X and Y. We'd see Landorus from Furious Fist. We'd see Registeel from Shining Legends, or was it Crimson Invasion? I don't remember. And Raikou from Shining Legends. I know that's one from Shining Legends. You'd see a lot of these attacks come out in the future that copied this attack until they eventually realized by the Mid-Sun and Moon era that 30 damage, unfortunately, just wasn't really cutting it anymore because, Zoroark was around. But this card was really, really good. It was the main kind of starter in these TDK or TDL decks. TDK was Thundurus, Deoxys, Kyurem, which Kyurem is not an EX, it's just a regular Plasma Pokemon. And then TDL was Thundurus, Deoxys, and Lugia, but it also usually had Kyurem in there. We also saw some TDS decks, Thundurus, Deoxys with Snorlax. Once again, you usually has Kyurem in there, but Snorlax was really cool because it stopped your opponent retreating, and it did for 5 energy, 30 for each Plasma Pokemon you had in play, which is kind of expensive, but 180 is kind of sick. Its second attack, I believe Thunderous Noise for Lightning Length, Double Colorless, 90. If you have a Plasma Energy attached to this Pokemon, discard an energy from your opponent's active. Not a good attack. You did not use that one. You were using Ride and Knuckle. It didn't hit weakness against things, so you're not worried about lightning weakness. You were just going to boost its damage and do Ride and Knuckle for 30, but actually you're doing more. We'll talk about that in a second. This card was really cool. 18. Then we have Deoxys. When I talked about doing more, here's what it is. Deoxys with its Power Connect ability. While Deoxys is on your bench, it buffs your active Plasma Pokemon's attacks by 10. This is what made Plasma so good, because its attacks did like 30, this guy does like 30. Kyurem does 30 with 30 snipe, like a, kind of like this attack, but for 2 energy. And then it did like 120. But actually, let's say Ride and Knuckles doing suddenly 60 or 70 for a single energy. Now that's some real damn value. And that's what Deoxys brought to the table with its Power Connect. And actually had a really good attack too. Don't let this attack slip under the belt. Helix Force for Psychic Colorless does 30 if you have a Plasma Energy attached to this Pokemon. It does 30 more for each energy attached to opponent's active. Seems weak, but at the time, both like TDK and TDL were like all over the ladder, obviously. Black Kyurem and Keldeo were all over the ladder. Rayquaza Eels was all over the ladder. There was also still a lot of Mewtwo. Mewtwo was still seeing play because Mewtwo is good. So Mewtwo with an X-Ball, right, comes out to the active. You attach a Plasma Energy to Deoxys with like Colress Machine, and then you attach a Psychic Prism, whatever, from hand to take a knockout on a Mewtwo for like essentially 1 energy. It's super sick attack that could see some play. It's mainly here for Power Connect, but really, really good card. I'm gonna put it in S tier. Yeah, I like it a little bit more than Thundurus, but it is so cool. Then we have Latias EX with its Bright Down ability, which prevents all damage done to it by Pokemon with abilities. This ability seems really strong, but if you actually look at the EXs, there's not that many abilities. Obviously, Darkrai it blocks, which is pretty good, and we'd get blocked from, Darkrai, and then later like Virizion and Deoxys, right? There's not that many abilities though, and that's one of the things that made it a little bit weaker than it possibly could have been. And then Barrier Break for Fire, Psychic, Colorless to 70 and prevents goes through effects. So this is essentially to go through, like, you wouldn't want to use this deck, but if your opponent's just putting up wall Pokemon like, you know, Sigilif, which prevents all damage done to it by EXs, or your opponent's playing the Kling Clang deck, which prevents all damage done to it by EXs, you just put up Latias and use that. Or there's some decks like later on Pyroar in 2014 Worlds that prevent all damage done by basic Pokemon. That would be more of a problem because you can use Kyurem to bust through non-EX walls, but like you can't use Latias, or you can't like bust through the Pyroar with Kyurem. You have to use Latias. It was a tech in TDK. I don't think it was very good, but it's a card I like, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. Then we have Latios. This is one of the worst ones. Like, I think its first attack is all like Mock Purge or something, and then like Luster Purge is its second attack. I don't even remember what these attacks do, I just remember that's really, really bad. Never saw play. Finally, we're on to Plasma Blast, one of my favorite sets. Plasma Freeze is also really, really good though. Boundary Cross also really, really good. Dark Explorer is really good. There's a lot of really good black and white sets. First of all, we have Tornadus EX. This is the second Tornadus EX. Notice that this one up here is its regular form, and this one's actually its Therian form. We did not see a Therian form of Landorus EX. We never saw a regular form of Thundurus EX, so Tornadus, I guess, is a little bit special. Windfall, shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6. I really liked this as a kid because I just throw this active in my bad decks and just get a new hand of 6. It's not bad. And second attack, Jet Blast, did 60 plus 30 for each Plasma Energy on this Pokemon. So if you get 4 Plasma Energy in this Pokemon, it's kind of sick. But if you can't get 4 Plasma Energy in this Pokemon, it's kind of shit. And ultimately, that's pretty normal to not get those on there, so C tier. Then we have Virizion. Virizion can't be talked about without mentioning Genesect. Virizion's Verdant Wind prevented all special conditions on your Pokemon with grass Pokemon attached. This sounds kind of like just okay, but then you look at the context of the time and realize that Hypnotoxic Laser, a card that poisoned and slept your opponent on an item card, was everywhere, and that card decided games. Decks played around that, decks played stadiums to boost the poison damage, decks relied on that sleep flip to keep your opponent out of commission, and Virizion was here to say absolutely not. Not only was it played with Genesect, it was even played in like Plasma decks, because you could play it and all of your Rainbow Energy was counted as grass, meaning you couldn't be affected by your opponent's Hypnotoxic Lasers. It cannot be understated how good this ability is at the time. One of the best abilities in the entire game at the time. It has the Emerald Slash attack, which does 50 for 1 grass, 1 colorless rather, and accelerates 2 grass energy from the deck to one of your bench Pokemon. Really, really, really good attack. This card going in S tier. We're talking about the next one. Genesect, 170 HP, with the Red Signal ability. When you attach a Plasma Energy to the Pokemon, you get to gust up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active. Super strong. You get a Lysander, but on the effect of attaching an energy to it. It has to be Plasma Energy, but still. Megalo Cannon, 100 damage for 3 energy, snipes 20. It's like Night Spear, but like a little bit like different, right? The main thing that this card was used for though was G Booster. You attach it as an ace spec, meaning it's the only one in your deck, but you can recover it with like Shadow Triad. You can search it out with Skyla. You can reveal it in the prize of Town Map. It was good. G Booster, 200 damage, discard 2 energy. It's literally Black Ballista, which was also good, but it's better than Black Ballista because it only takes 1 energy. One type of energy to use. It takes 3 energy and does 200 and only just discard 2 instead of taking 4 energy and discarding 3. This card was so good and it got powered up by Virizion. It was the deck I played at the time. It was my first ever like good deck. I didn't have 4 Virizion Genesect, but I had like 2 Virizion and like 3 Genesect, and I was having the time of my life, bringing up whatever I wanted and taking names whenever I wanted. It was so good. S tier. Cannot be understated how good this deck was. Then we have Kyurem EX. Kyurem EX got a second EX. This is part of a collection in Japan. That's also why the Plasma Blast printing of Blastoise exists, and the Suicune, the really good Suicune that prevents damage done to it by EXs. Those all came from that deck in Japan. What does the Kyurem do as an outrage attack? 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on it. Kind of okay. But at this point, you know, 200s were kind of being thrown around from every direction. Things were not safe for taking 2-hit KOs, frankly. And if you weren't getting 2-hit KO'd, you're getting hit by like a Virizion for like 50 to 70 damage, and like you wouldn't be able to make so much out of that. And then second attack does like, I believe like 150 damage and discard 2 waters. It's not bad, but it wasn't good. I do like the artwork on this one, but it's just kind of nothing special. C tier. Then we have Jirachi EX. the first of its kind of 2 prize support Pokemon that we would see go on to this very day. Obviously, we have Jirachi EX, and then we would go on to Shaman EX, and then from Shaman, we would go on to Tapu Lele GX. From Tapu Lele, we would go on to Crobat V, Eldegoss V, and then we would go even later to Lumineon V, and up till today, where we're getting Squawkabilly EX in the next set. Jirachi started the trend, and while it wasn't as good as like Tapu Lele or Shaman, it wasn't, but it was good, and that's what mattered. When you play it from your hand, you mentioned me search your deck for a supporter card and put it into your hand. What this card did is I played it in decks because if I can't find a supporter card, I'm going to lose the game. Oh shit, I have an Ultra Ball. I guess I have a supporter card then, so I can keep playing the game. Yes, it is a 90 HP 2-prize Pokemon that it does not get past me. That is some of the lowest HP on a 2-prize Pokemon of all time. It is the lowest HP EX, in fact, of the entire era. That does not get past me at all, but like if it's the difference between losing the game or I have a chance to lose the game from this being on the bench, I'm going to take the chance so I can still play the game with a supporter card to draw some cards, something like Research or N to get back into the game. N can be especially effective because you can shuffle your opponent out of a Gust card to bring up Jirachi. I play this in so many decks. S tier. Its attack Hypnoblast, 60 for 3 energy, you put both active to sleep. I've won a single game with this attack out of like the thousands of games I've played with Jirachi EX in my lifetime. It's not a good attack, but I will proudly say that I have won a game with this attack before, and that's hilarious. Then we have Dialga EX. Man, I'm a big Dialga memer. I played Dialga EX back in the day. It is not good, but I have tried. For Psychic Metal Colorless, it does, I believe, 50 damage. And you flip a coin if heads, put any one card from your pile on top of your deck. Actually really good. Gets you back like resources, mainly like Plasma Energy and Colress Machine to accelerate more Plasma Energy. Why do we want Plasma Energy? For the second attack, of course. For 4 colorless energy, actually pretty playable, actually pretty payable because of Plasma Energy. Does 90 damage, and fast forward says for each Plasma Energy attached to this Pokemon, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. This stack is so damn funny. I love Mill, and while this was terrible, I still won some games milling my opponent out. Every once in a while on PTCGO, I would still try to create some harebrained deck to try to use fast forward. Like I tried to make it work with Mew EX, and I tried to make it work with all these other things. Anything to make this like card a little bit more usable. Mew EX, for instance, has Dimension Valley. So it's a little bit easier to pay, but obviously Plasma Energies are a little bit more precious there. Again, like there's a million and one ways you can make it work. I convinced myself that I was going to try to make it work with Archeops. That didn't work. You know, there's like a million and one ways to play it. Porygon Z. I tried to do it with what's the one guy that I can't think of it. The one that copies attacks, the Marshadow, right? Copies all the basic Pokemon in your compile. Didn't work either. Yeah, this card is not good at all, but for the meme, I'm putting an S tier. It's a funny card. This doesn't have Palkia EX. I just realized there's no Palkia EX here. Well, that's my bad. I'll talk about Palkia EX anyway. The Palkia EX is the last EX from Plasma Blast and should be here, but I apparently forgot it. Palkia EX has the attack. What you call it? It has the attack. I believe it's. I don't remember its stack name. It does 50 damage and switches itself to the bench. That's what it's used for. Its second attack, Dimension Heal, does like 90, and if you have a Plasma Energy, so it heal 20 for each Plasma Energy attached to it. The second attack is garbage, it's super hard to pay. What you use it for is the first attack that does like 50, and you switch. You put a bunch of Deoxys on the bench to boost its damage, and then you switch into a wall like Suicune or Sigilif, or into like an item-locking Pokemon like Trevenant in like 2014. Yeah, the card was actually like not bad. I'd give that card like an A tier or a B tier. It's a cool card. Second attack's completely useless then. I'll fix the tier list by the time I get it on YouTube, so like, you won't see it in the video, but in the link in the description if you want to do it, it will be fixed. Then we have Chandelure, Excadrill, and Meloetta, the 3 EXs new to Legendary Treasures, and this broke the precedent, as I said at the beginning of this video. I know it has been a long time, it has been, what, like an hour, yes. That they were all basic Legendary Pokemon. Well, we got our first print into the X and Y era here, taking some notes from them with regular Pokemon, and honestly, like, this was... Like, I like Chandelure as a Pokemon, but, like, this felt like a little bit of a slap in the face, because I really like the basic Legendary thing, and, like, now the fact that it's like, oh, this is a basic Pokemon that shouldn't be a basic Pokemon really did bother me as a kid. Not to mention these cards were absolutely awful, as were, like, most of the XY base cards, too. Besides Yveltal. Yveltal was really good. Yeah, anyway. Chandelure. Curse Drop, I believe it puts 4 damage to energy Pokemon in any way. Like, no, it's not good. And I believe something like, something burn, 70 damage. Your opponent's Pokemon is now, like, burned. No. I believe it's like Eerie Burn or something like that. Might confuse them too. I don't remember. It's not good. It's not as good as Chandelure from Noble Victories. Chandelure from Noble Victories is the GOAT. This card is the Nope. D tier. Then we have Meloetta. I'll talk about Excadrill actually first, because Excadrill is another one of these evolution Pokemon. It's absolutely terrible. Pull up plus 40 damage for 2 energy. I believe you discard the top card of your deck for the energy attached to it, I believe this is. Terrible. And second attack, 2 fighting, 2 colorless, 120 break ground. I believe it does damage to your bench Pokemon. Also terrible D tier. Those two were completely uncalled for and should have been held for the XY era, or they at least would be an embarrassment with the rest of the era. Then we have Meloetta EX. Meloetta EX, Brilliant Voice, 20, and I believe Flip a Coin if heads, Confusion if tails, Sleep. I could be wrong on that. The main reason it was here is for Round. 3 Psychic does 30 damage for each Pokemon you have in play with Round. So you get this and the Seismitoad line into play. And you mainly attack with Seismitoad, but then obviously late game sweep with Meloetta. Takes 3 Psychic Energy, so it's a little bit much, but it was a fun meme. This is the best art on any EX Pokemon, I will say. I don't know how they did it, but this like looks like an actual like illustration, despite the fact it's CG. So for that alone, it's like the best looking EX. I'm gonna give it S tier. That is my tier list. I'm sorry I took an hour. I am very passionate about the Black and White era, because it's when I played when I was a kid. Obviously, if I replay this era now, I'm going to have a lot less fun. I can't use Reshiram, Kyurem, and Zekrom like I used to. I can't make Dialga EX work like I used to. So this card is ultimately very bad in retrospect. But yeah, I had a lot of fun when I was a kid, so I have a little bit of bias here, a little bit of nostalgia. These cards are really cool looking, so as a kid, like big EXs that are all legendary Pokemon. I didn't care much about like if they made the game good, because that was the game I was playing regardless. So yeah, the game was better during Diamond Pearl, that's a fact. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this essentially movie-length review of all of the EX Pokemon from Black and White. If you want to do the tier list, all of the tier list fixed with Palkia EX by the time I release this. In the description down below, I will have it linked. If you love tier list videos, once again, every single Tuesday I upload these tier list videos. My voice is getting really dry, so I'm going to head out. And thank you all for watching the Whimsicast. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.